So, I'm confused, Melinda. Didn't we do this yesterday?
I feel like I've been talking to you straight for about a week and a half. I
Yeah.
mean,
At
I,
this
I
point,
it's kind of weird because you and I have each of us have podcasts. You have Movie Oubliette, of course, and we both have Dreamland.
mm,
But something special happened yesterday that's never happened before.
yes. So Dan went on holiday for the first time ever uh, during a recording season for Movie Oubliette. So rather than try to double up and record in advance, we said, no, we think we're a mature podcast. We can have guest co-hosts. And
Yes.
you were the first.
Yay! It remains to be seen if I can hold a candle to your normal shows. Like, I mean, obviously Dan's shoes are big shoes to fill, but yeah, it was
We,
very fun. And like, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, well, you brought a fantastic film for us to talk about. So,
Yeah, I was pleased with it. I, you know, I hope that you enjoy. I know you probably didn't enjoy it as much as me. I guess the audience will have to listen to the show to find out what your verdict was. But yeah, it's going to be really fun to hear that. I didn't really appreciate, as most people don't, how much work. I mean, I knew there was a lot of work, but until you do the actual work that someone does when they're making a show, you don't really understand. Like, both people involved are like working their butts off to make stuff happen. So it's incredible.
yes, very much so. But this was one where you could relax and not.
Today's show, you mean?
Today's show, yes, you can relax. Hello, everyone. This is Dreamland. I'm
Yes,
Conrad.
I'm Melinda.
And today we're going to have a little bit of fun because we're going to do sort of a reverse of an episode that we did a while ago called Stallion, where I watched lots of movies that I'd never seen before. Sylvester Stallone movies, no less. So we thought we'd reverse it a little bit. And the hint that we put out for everybody was the word vision. And we had some great guesses.
Yeah, we did.
Gloop Trekker said magic eye prints and how they drove some of us crazy.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great guess. And it makes me want to do an episode on that
It
because
really does.
were
Yeah.
you ever able to see the magic eye?
Not once, ever.
I got this great advice the other day, Conrad, about how to do them.
Ah,
You look at them and cross your eyes,
right.
and then slowly uncross your eyes and try to look into the middle distance. And that was the first time I had ever seen one. Was just the other
Really?
day. Yes, randomly.
It actually worked.
It worked. Yeah, I was like,
So
"Oh
there's
my
hope
god."
for me yet.
I think so. It's not that exciting once you see it. You're like, "Oh, well that's okay."
Yeah. No, I used to be stood in Athena in the UK, just boss-eyed in front of these things for hours, getting nowhere.
Right.
And now I need glasses. So
Uh-huh.
I blame Magic Eye Prints.
Sure.
Philip Rodriguez said the renewed trend of 3D movies in the 1980s. That's a great topic.
That is a great topic, and I think some version of that is on our list somewhere.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
I would love to do that.
Yep.
Carlos Montenegro said film and television shows featuring blind characters like A Patch of Blue, Wait Until Dark, Ice Castles, Blind Fury, If You Could See What I Hear, In the Dark, Blind Justice, Daredevil, and the Zatoichi films. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly.
Wow. That is a
Yeah.
really exhaustive list, and honestly, I mean, he did half the research for us right there. I mean, what a great
Yeah,
topic.
it's a great topic.
Yeah.
But closest was our boy Matthew Kearns, who said movies about the future,
Yeah.
which is pretty good.
It's pretty good. I
It
mean,
is pretty
I
good.
don't think anybody got the AI part of it, which the hint on that, of course, is that there's the Vision Marvel character who is an AI himself, kind of, sort of, right?
Yes.
And so that plus the vision of the future in the 80s. So, yeah.
It's both. It's a double entendre. If we can get two meanings into one of our word clues, we will.
And we wanted it to be something where like I'd never seen these movies. So we were trying to find, you know, a cross section of 80s movies that I haven't seen, which is hard. But you managed to find three, and they were all very interesting, Conrad.
Yes, you're using interesting in the British sense.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm trying to be enigmatic.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing. So it's the same format as the Stallion show. We're going to take three films. We're going to show Melinda's impression of what the film is going to be like before she watched it. Then I'll give you a little bit of a history of the film, and then we'll watch Melinda's reaction. Sorry,
No, that's fine.
as she watches the film, which I'm sure is going to be delightful. I'm just going to get this warm glow as I see a friend enjoy a film I've loved since childhood.
So really quickly, are these all films that you love? Or are you going to tell me that as we go along?
I'll tell you as we go along.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all films I saw in the 80s.
I see. Okay.
And yeah, and were seminal in my understanding of AI at the time. So we'll also, as we're going along, talk about how AI is represented in the 80s.
Mhm.
I mean, in particular, science fiction as a genre has always been used as a means of obtaining a sort of critical distance from the present, and uses the opportunity to have an allegory to ask philosophical questions about the nature of humanity and consciousness and free will. But these days, the rapid advancement of technology has led to a potential collapse in this critical distance. So
Mhm.
it feels like the real world is now, and AI has become a focus of much attention recently, as things like ChatGPT and Midjourney have raised serious concerns about its impact on child development, crime, jobs, art, entertainment, all aspects of our lives. So we thought it would be interesting to take a look back at the way AI was represented in the films of our Gen X youths,
Yes.
back when we were still projecting towards a future we were only beginning to imagine, and look at the issues that were raised back then.
And see how close they came to nailing it.
So close,
I
so
mean,
close. Yeah,
it's like indistinguishable.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, so our topic today is vision, as we said, and our very first film will be the 1984 film 2010. And to kick us off, let's see what Melinda thought 2010 was going to be about. Video store.
I'm excited to be here.
Your first film will be 2010, the sequel to Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, a landmark in cinema. The sequel was not so much a landmark in
I
cinema.
was going to say.
So, focusing on the AI for all of these films, what's Hal's backstory?
See, I thought Hal died in the first movie. So maybe if he's back, maybe he's like a zombie AI. I mean, that would kind of go along with what's going on in the 80s, right? Because zombies started being a thing.
So he's back from the dead with a lust for human brains.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, he did enjoy killing people.
What's Hal like to hang out with?
I feel like Hal is probably stressful to hang out with. You never really know what's going to set him off. What is his real agenda? We don't know. It's just stressful because he could just decide to like kill everyone on the ship if they aren't doing what he wants them to do.
Well, putting that aside, what sort of activities does he enjoy doing with humans?
I mean, obviously eating brains. That's a given. But initially I want to say play chess.
Would you like to play a game of chess?
But that's probably really boring for an AI. Maybe like playing tag, where like once he catches you, you're dead.
High stakes tag, okay.
Laser tag, but for real.
Yeah. I want that movie. Okay.
Me too.
Does Hal show off any remarkable talents or do something amazing during the film?
I'm thinking that maybe he knows the end game that the humans don't know. Like whatever the obelisk, the big rocks, like he knows the whole secret and the mystery of why they're there. To make whatever happens happen.
Machiavellian AI, okay.
Yeah. Zombie
so-
Machiavellian AI.
Yeah, that does high risk tag. Okay. Does Hal have emotions?
In the original, they kind of played around with that idea, so I think maybe yes. My sort of take was that he had sort of done some miscalculations in the first one. I can't remember it as well, but it seems like he sort of miscalculated and then he was like angry and kind of trying to cover that up a little bit somehow by killing people.
He became paranoid.
Yeah, I think he has emotions. I think he's probably a little arrogant.
I play very well.
I'm sure you do. No, thank you.
So I think you've answered this already. Does Hal turn out to be an antagonist or a protagonist? Is he, as an AI, a force for good or evil? I think you're coming down on evil.
I want to come down on evil because he seemed evil in the first one, but maybe that's the arc, is that he turns out at the end of this movie to not be evil. Like maybe we go into it thinking he's evil and he's not, but I'm still going to say evil because if you're an AI and you're having to deal with humans, I mean, I'm a human and I have to deal with humans and I don't like them. If you're a really, really intelligent being, yeah, kill them all.
Yeah.
Don't kill them all.
Okay, and finally, what do you think happens to Hal at the end?
Part of me wants to say he does a Terminator 2 where he sacrifices himself to save the humans, like, because you've kind of made me think he's a good guy.
Do you want me to stay with you? No. It is better for the mission if you leave.
But I'm gonna go with, because it was the mid-80s, I'm gonna say they blow him up.
Wow, okay.
I'm projecting what I want to see, but I have a feeling this movie is much like the original, very slow and not as action heavy as I'm making it sound.
Okay. There you go. How do you feel about that?
It's funny because I really didn't remember what I had said. It seems like it was so long ago. It's only like a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I clearly got some things wrong, but not everything. I don't know if I'm gonna do as well as you did with like the guessing game stuff, Conrad, but
We're going to have
know.
a running score.
Oh, God.
I've got a scoreboard that compares our results. So,
Oh, no.
buckle up. There is going to be a winner. So
Oh,
brace
no.
yourselves
Okay.
for that.
Yeah, go ahead and put your bets in the chat, like who you think did a better job of guessing. Okay.
Okay. So the actual synopsis of the movie is that this takes place, surprise, surprise, 9 years after the original movie, after the unexplained failure of the Discovery mission, and Dr. Haywood Floyd hitches a ride on a Russian space flight to Jupiter to find out what happened to the crew and investigate the mysterious monolith that's still hovering in orbit around the largest planet in the solar system. Their best hope is to reactivate and interrogate the ship's AI, Hal, very famous, to find out why he murdered everybody apart from the commander, David Bowman, and what happened to David Bowman when he investigated the monolith. Tensions mount during this mission as the Cold War escalates back on Earth, driving a wedge between the combined crew. There's curious signs of life detected on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and Hal's homicidal past causes some serious trust issues. Meanwhile, David Bowman's ghost shows up, warning everybody about something wonderful that's going to destroy everybody unless they leave immediately. So the Russian and American crews have to work together, probably hearing David Hasselhoff in their head, I'm sure, in a race against time to escape the monolith's stellar plans for Jupiter. So that's actually what the movie is about. And
No zombies at all.
No, there were no brains. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was a bummer,
Yeah.
but you know, it
Yeah.
was a long shot.
So, in terms of the development, Arthur C. Clarke, the author of the original novel, he published his sequel novel, 2010 Odyssey 2, in 1982, 14 years after the original novel and film.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Why is the 2010 written like sports font on the cover of that book? It's
It's
very
the
weird.
80s. We're
Okay,
trying to draw in a sports audience. That's what it is.
that's gonna go well. Anyway, sorry. Please continue.
Okay. Not surprisingly, Stanley Kubrick had no interest whatsoever in directing a sequel to his cinematic landmark that single-handedly redefined the science fiction genre. Go figure.
Yeah.
And the efforts to find a director willing to take on the unenviable task of walking in those footsteps were frustrated initially by a squabble over the rights. So Julia Phillips, who is one of the producers of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, swore blind that she had the rights, but MGM eventually convinced everyone it sat with them. Phillips later published a memoir that talked about her $120,000 cocaine habit. Maybe there's a connection there. Who can tell?
I love the unrelated photo you have pulled up there.
Completely unrelated photo.
Right.
I'm not sure how it got in there. So yeah, so it went to Peter Hyams. Not a bad choice, I don't think. He did telephone Kubrick to ask for his permission. Kubrick didn't care.
Whatever, man. Whatever.
Yeah, just make it your own movie. I don't care, I think was pretty much his answer. Hyams had directed the NASA conspiracy thriller Capricorn 1 in 1978 and Outland in 1981 with Sean Connery, a movie I've discussed with Michael.
That's
on
right.
Dreamland.
Yes.
Amazingly. The sets for the movie were designed by the futurist Sid Mead, who's worked on Star Trek The Motion Picture, or who worked on, I should say, he's no longer with us sadly, Blade Runner, Tron, Aliens, so some pretty big landmark sci-fi movies. And they were realised by set designer Albert Brenner, whose toughest job was actually painstakingly recreating several sets from 2001, the blueprints for which had long been destroyed, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
By contrast, instead of the sort of white, smooth interiors of the Discovery, the interiors of the Russian ship, the Leonov, were more inspired by Alien and Das Boot, very functional and cramped.
You can really tell that. Like, you can tell his cinematic, what do you call it, heritage, or whatever, because I noted it several times. I don't know if it made it into the final edit here, but I did note, like, this looks a lot like Alien. This looks a lot like Star Trek The Motion Picture. It feels like it, just cinematography and just all of it. So yeah, you can feel that.
You can, yeah. It's right in that sweet spot of 80s sci-fi production design that I really love. It's beautiful stuff.
Yep.
It had an all-star cast, including Roy Scheider. I always want to say Schneider. It's
I
not, is it?
know. I call him Jaws guy.
I just think of him as Brody in Jaws. But
Yeah.
he's Haywood Floyd here, replacing William Sylvester from the original movie. I think he's great in the role.
He's very good. Very good.
With Bob Balaban, or Balaban, not sure how you say that, as Hal's creator, Dr. Chandra, another actor I love, and John Lithgow, who I adore,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
an engineer called Walter Kurnow. So they're the three Americans, plus the famous Russian actress Helen Mirren.
Well, you Brits are pretty close to Russia, so it's close enough.
Yeah. And she's doing her best Ripley impression as the commander of the Russian crew, Tanya Kurbuk. And the rest of the Russian crew is made up of actual Russians and Russian American actors.
Are they really Russian? Because I was thinking
Yeah.
it was probably hard to get Russians during this time period with the Cold War in its full height.
Yeah, maybe people who had resettled, had run
Okay.
away
Wow.
for a better
Okay.
career. Who knows? Yeah. And Keir Dullea and Douglas Rain also returned to reprise their roles as Dave Bowman and the voice of Hal.
Okay. Wow.
Excuse me, just coughing there. I got a bit of a cold.
Yes. You're hiding it very well, though.
I am. I do my best. So it was released on the 7th of December 1984, and it fell in second place behind Beverly Hills Cop, which grossed 2.5 times 2010's gross, despite being in its second week of release. That's how big Beverly Hills Cop was in
Sure.
Christmas
Yeah.
of 1984. It dropped to fourth place the following week after the release of David Lynch's Dune, and was outgrossed by a re-release of Disney's Pinocchio over the Christmas season. But it eventually managed to hawk up about $40 million in 1984 dollars on a $28 million budget, which is not bad. It's not great.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Those are the other films there are just really interesting to look at. You've got Terminator in its 7th week. It's being just barely below this. Night of the Comet, I love seeing that on there in its 4th week.
Yeah.
Still kind of not doing too bad.
Yeah,
Interesting.
which we of course have done a live stream on with the stars of the movie.
I know. One of
We've
the
done a
highlights.
lot.
I know. We never shut up.
No, we're just recording our private conversations at this point.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy. So at this point, it falls to me to guess whether I think Melinda found this mind-blowing, slow, thoughtful, provocative, conceptual science fiction adventure enthralling. My guess is no. I think this one's going to get a really, really thorough thumbs down from you.
Okay.
And I can't wait to see your reaction to it.
All right. Well, buckle up, Conrad and audience, because here's my reaction in real time to this film. It's time for our first movie, 2010, the year we make contact. Conrad, I hope you aren't going to kill me with this one. I feel like I'm watching the beginning of Legend with this really, really long... So many words. I'm waiting for Jodie Foster to pull up. I don't think there's going to be any zombies.
No.
I always worry when there are animals in any movie. Eat the kid, eat the kid. Can you imagine the humidity in this room?
Are you gonna forget about me?
No, I love you.
I don't understand.
Well, that's not surprising. Why bother with working out if you're just going to be asleep the whole time? It's really helpful that they have gravity inside the ship.
Yeah.
That's just a whole lot of nope. All the nope. Just no freaking way.
Don't want to sit in a glass coffin?
I mean, that doesn't look good. It looks like you would definitely die. I'm not a fan of the voiceover. Nope. Nope. It's just a weird choice to send someone who is afraid of heights and hasn't been trained to be an astronaut. Like, couldn't he have just, like, sat at the command booth and talked them through what they need to look for? Like, it doesn't seem like
Where's the drama
best
in that?
decision, but
Strange smell here.
like zombies.
Stale, rotten. Like something has...
Dear Caroline, we're nearly out of food. My shoes torn clear through, and now I'm just marching straight on my bare feet.
Oh, this
I
is
can't
great.
wait to get back home to you. I hope I'll see you and the children one day soon.
There should be a fiddle.
Space movies, oh my god. They're like ocean movies. Everything has to move really slow and take forever. Just establish the hell out of it. Why do I feel like I'm watching The Abyss? I really feel like I'm watching The Abyss.
In space.
Is it about political conflict or is it about a mission? Zombies.
Oh, I've been drinking your whiskey from Kentucky.
Oh, I wish I had.
I wish I had too. I do feel like I'm watching The Abyss. Conrad, why?
You're supposed to be inspired.
It was better than I expected. It was every bit as slow as I expected. I don't know. I feel like the ending, kind of like in The Abyss, was very too sappy, too politically motivated from the time. So I don't know. I'm really bummed out that there were no zombies. That's pretty much how I feel right now. So, thanks, Conrad.
So I'm guessing that is not a thumbs up.
And well, so I'm going to say a thumbs down, but I will say that with the caveat that it was a very competently made film. There's a lot of beautiful cinematography. If you like that genre, which I do not generally like it, you would probably enjoy it. I think the reason I settled on a thumbs down, because I actually did kind of debate it, is the ending is so anticlimactic. And I hated the opening crawl words. There were just way too many, and the voiceover. Like all those three things kind of pushed it into the thumbs down for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm surprised, and especially one of my favorite scenes, which is John Lithgow's character Walter Koenig having this massive anxiety attack when he does a spacewalk for the first time.
Yeah.
And just knowing how much you love that kind of thing.
Well, I was empathetic about it. Like I would
Yeah.
have been I would have just had a stroke and died. Like I just would have freaked out and died. I couldn't do it, but I thought it was very effective. It was very tense. There was no music. It was just you just hear him hyperventilating, and I wonder if the actor was actually hyperventilating to do that, or if they just had him on a loop. But it sounded authentic. Like it was very upsetting.
Yeah, and I just remember as a kid watching it and just having my mind blown at the concept of that, you know, if you are scared of heights, that going on a spacewalk and looking down at your feet and just seeing infinity below them.
I can't even.
Yeah.
That's why I kept saying nope, because it was like there was a lot more of me doing that throughout the very long filming of me watching a movie. But I was just like squirming in my chair because it was upsetting to watch.
Yeah. So not a fun time.
Effective though. I mean, good. It had some Hunt for Red October vibes. It felt like you were in a submarine a lot of the time because of the darkness and the whatever. The actors were great. Like it's just really the ending.
I'm going to turn Jupiter into a sun, and you've got all these new worlds to explore, but don't go to Europa.
I have so many like questions about how that would affect like other planets in the solar system if Jupiter were a sun, and would it still rotate around the other sun, or does it stop rotating at that point? Because it doesn't seem to be rotating in all of the images at the end of the film where you have the two suns. They're always exactly in the same like relationship to each other in every single, which is weird. I'm not a, astrophysicist, whatever person, but it just seems like that would be wrong, but I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I have no idea either, but I have a lot of faith in Arthur C. Clarke because I think he invented satellites and so on, or at least he's laid claim to talking about them in his books before they actually happened. So.
Okay, well,
yeah,
I'm sure he knows way more about it than I do, so
yeah.
Not going to argue.
He might have taken some dramatic license, but how did you feel about the way that AI is represented in the film? So we talked about Hal in the pre-show,
yes,
what we expected to be of him. How did you think he was represented?
So I think, and I sort of, as skimming through, I didn't do a lot of research because the research on this was yours, but I did do a little bit of reading just because I was curious about a couple things. And it seems like the book actually does do it. The movie reflects the book, which is that they kind of make this excuse for Hal in the first movie and why he did what he did, and that those things are consistent. That he was given two sets of like instructions in the first movie, and that they conflicted, and so he tried to follow them both, I guess, and that's why he ended up kind of like killing people and doing some of those things. So I feel like in that sense he comes across much more like a machine, because he's not able to have emotions or make decisions like to prioritize or look at these two plans and go, okay, well this is whatever. On the other hand, when we see the Dr. Chandra at the beginning talking to the new version of Hal, whose name is Sal, I think.
Yes.
He talks to that version as though it definitely has feelings and emotions, and it talks to him as though it has emotions. But I don't know if that's like when you ask Alexa, you know, how she's feeling, and it's just saying, you know, it's kind of unclear. They don't really define it. So maybe I'm missing something, but it's just sort of ambiguous to me in the movie.
Yeah, it's one of the things that really fascinated me about this movie is that the issue that it addresses is that artificial intelligences can only be as good as the humans that are programming them.
Okay.
And because we don't quite understand the implications of the instructions that we're giving them, sometimes we can give them instructions that are bad. So in the first movie, I think essentially what happened is Hal is told, you have to prevent Dave Bowman and his other crew member from finding out about the monolith. They're not allowed to know about it. And you have to make sure that the mission succeeds. So in his mind, the easiest way to make sure that the two of them don't find out about it is if he kills them.
But that leads me to a lot of other questions, like, because it was the government like that gave him that additional information, right? Like, so why did they not want him to know? Did they already know that the monoliths were going to be turning Jupiter into a sun?
No, this was the original film.
Yeah, no,
So
I know.
No,
But-
no, I don't. No, I don't think they knew. They knew the monolith was there and that they were going to intercept it, but I don't think Dave Bowman and the other guy whose name I can't remember. Is it Frank? Yeah, it's Frank. They didn't know that the monolith, you know, aliens monolith. They didn't know anything about that. They were just supposed to get the ship there, and Hal's trying to keep it from them. But unfortunately, he reaches a very logical conclusion that murdering them is the easiest way to make sure they never find out. And murdering all the scientists means they won't wake up and tell them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that totally tracks. And I do love, in terms of analyzing it from a modern perspective, if you look at things that are like scraping the web for all sorts of data, it's not like the web, the internet, whatever, is full of facts or only facts. It's full of all sorts of garbage. So if you pour a bunch of like 80% garbage and 20% like actual verifiable things into an AI, then isn't your final product going to essentially be 80% garbage? Like, that's my question. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're only as good as their human operators in some ways. And we can feed our own biases and errors into them. And the reason that Hayward Floyd is annoyed in this movie is because he, as a scientist, had no interest in withholding information from anyone and wasn't aware that there was an attempt to obscure information from two of the people in his crew.
Yeah.
And it caused this conflict in Hal, who couldn't figure out how to resolve giving information with no distortion and withholding information. So he just couldn't figure out how to combine those two different conflicting things.
Sure.
So, I'll just kill everybody. Job done.
Yeah. I mean, just all good.
It worked.
It did work. So I mean, I think that that Hal feels a lot more like not empathetic. What am I trying to say? Sympathetic as a character in this film as opposed to the original. I think in the original, he was there to pose a lot of questions to the audience as opposed to answer them, as most things in that film were. It was Kubrick doing what he does best and showing you a lot of visual information that can resonate deeply within your brain, but that maybe your conscious brain doesn't know about. And, you know, he's working with symbols and images. This movie was much more of a, we need to tie up some loose ends. We need to explain some stuff. And we need to sort of clarify whether Hal was actually a bad guy or not. And it looks like they came down on the side of he's not. And I mean, I just don't have a lot of trust in AI. I'm more of a Terminator gal. So it's, you know.
Yeah. So you're like Haywood Floyd and Walter who decide that they're going to make sure that there's a button that they can press to just turn him off. Always
which
useful.
Doesn't really go anywhere, but yeah.
No.
No. You do kind of wonder if that's going to come into play. And I almost really wondered if Chandra was going to subvert the whole mission. Like I kept thinking he was going to do something to like, because he's squirrely looking and he's not trustworthy looking. He didn't. So it was all very unfounded on my part, but.
Yeah, but it's there, I think, as a threat. The the scientist who cares more about his creation than other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's explored too. But yeah, interesting to see. You know, the '60s version of it is he's just a malfunctioning killer, and then this later version is actually it's the result of the humans giving him bad information.
So basically the end of this is AI is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
There's a theme that we're
bad.
going to see here today, I think.
Yeah. AI is good, humans bad, hence Cold War as well, which is an angle that Peter Hyams played up. It's not as central to the novel as it is in the film to create tension.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's our first slice of 80s AI fun. How are you feeling about it so far?
I'm feeling good about it. I definitely was not expecting it to be so on the fence. Like I really was dreading watching that movie. I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. So I'm glad that I have seen it because I actually do really like the first one, believe it or not.
Really?
I do. And I actually love, as you already know, Star Trek the Motion Picture. So it's not like I hate all space movies. It's just Star Trek feels like more of a fantasy, and because 2001 is so surreal, it kind of does too. But anything that starts to feel too realistic, I start getting sweaty palms because I'm so scared of like going into space or whatever.
Yeah, being in a pressurized canister with yeah. It's not good. It's not good. So in terms of your score, out of a total of 9 questions, you got 2 right. Which is 22%.
Oh. Well, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. I knew I did really badly on that one. Mostly because I went for comedy instead of what was likely. But I regret nothing.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think I did too on Sylvester Stallone.
Really?
Still, strangely, I was right a quarter of the time.
Well,
in that case.
Yeah, that's true.
Who knew? Who knew?
Who knew?
Okay, so let's move on to our second slice of AI from the 80s. And this is one that I think a lot of people haven't heard of, especially not in America. I think it did better here and in France than it did in the US.
Okay.
It's a romantic comedy called Electric Dreams. Let's kick things off by seeing what you expected of this movie.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Shelf in your fever dream in the Dreamland video store was Electric Dreams from 1984, which is not a porn movie. So, Electric Dreams features a sentient artificial intelligence called Edgar.
Edgar.
Wow, that's a bummer because that is not what I thought this movie was about. The only thing I knew about this movie is I saw the cover art of a man and a woman, and I got very strong mannequin vibes.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking that he's got a sex bot and that he falls in love with her and hijinks ensue. That's what I thought this movie was about. And I'm really bummed out now that that's not. Clearly, her name is not Edgar. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Maybe she's got a sex bot.
So you're imagining that Lenny Von Dolan from Twin Peaks is Virginia Madsen's sex bot. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. I love it.
Okay.
What's his backstory?
His backstory is that he used to be like some sort of like household appliance, and I'm not sure how he comes across her, but it'll be some sort of meet cute because it's a romantic comedy, right? So there still has to be the whole funny, cute little way they meet. He kind of has a wacky past because he's like a robot. But then he's like discovering that he has emotions because he really falls in love with her.
So what do you think Edgar's like to hang out with?
I think he's probably like conversationally not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but like he's really strong. So there'll be scenes where like she's trying to do something and he just like can lift things like just because he's like really strong, you know, because he's a robot. And she's just like, oh, so useful.
What sort of activities does Edgar enjoy engaging with?
I think that he's just like a really super happy to go along with whatever she wants to do. Like, again, I feel like it's kind of like a wish fulfillment lady dream where he's just there for whatever she wants to do.
Is there anything in particular you can imagine them doing together?
I mean, I'm hoping it's mini golf. Can you imagine? He's gonna get every shot because he can do the math, and then he wins her like the little fuzzy prize. I am nailing this.
Yeah, you really are. Does Edgar have any? I mean, we've talked about his super strength. So, any remarkable talents or amazing things he does in the film?
Maybe like she gets hurt or injured in some way. But he's able to like help her because he has read a book on like CPR or first aid or something, and he's very cool and collected in a crisis, and he can just like come in and kind of be a savior, like a rescuer kind of guy.
Does Edgar have emotions? Is Virginia Madsen's love requited in this rom-com?
I think so, because AIs obviously they adapt, they sort of observe and experience the world and then learn and grow from that. So through the process of being loved, he himself loves.
So is that sort of his overarching character arc in the film, is falling in love for the first time?
Yeah, because of course there will be a scene where he's learning about human culture by watching mid-'80s television and stuff, and he's gonna, what is love?
Well, what is it?
So does Edgar as an AI prove to be good or evil in this romantic comedy? Does it have like a dark, sardonic twist, or is it just...
No, I think he's good. I think he's good. I mean, I think he has the potential to be violent or to be destructive, but he doesn't want to do that.
Like the Iron Giant.
Right, yes.
Okay.
But not as sentimental.
So what happens to Edgar at the end of the movie?
I think they somehow managed to end up together. It doesn't seem like the kind of movie that's going to end on him dying or being destroyed like Terminator style. Maybe they escape to like an island somewhere and live just the two of them.
Okay, so together in electric
together. Yeah.
It's amazing how close you are.
I bet. I know I nailed that one.
Yeah.
Of all of them, I felt the strongest about, like, when I saw that image, I was like, I got this. So cocky. So wrong.
But it's amazing how many beats in a romantic comedy you actually managed to identify. Absolutely spot on.
It is my genre. Okay. Like,
Right.
I do know rom-coms if I know anything. So, yeah. I do love for anyone who's like a fan of retro blasting, they'll definitely notice that Edgar's face on the screen that you have up right now looks just like the one of the two little guys from Pole Position cartoon from the 80s, like Rhodey and oh, what's the other one? Anyway, the two they had like a little computer screen, like a television set that sat inside the car that had their faces, and they literally look just like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, so this film is not very well known, and there's a good reason for that, and I'll get to that in the production history.
Okay.
But here's the actual synopsis for anybody who hasn't seen it before. It's about a dashing young architect called Miles Harding who buys one of these newfangled personal computers to help him design an earthquake-proof brick. In his enthusiasm, he buys all of the accessories, including what appear to be the world's first smart plugs, a speech synthesis module, a modem. This is before the internet exists.
Yeah.
Creating a fully automated home. The machine overheats when he attempts to download too much data from his office mainframe, so in a panic, he douses it in champagne. Somehow, this imbues the 8-bit machine with sentience, which first becomes apparent when it engages in an improvised jamming session with the beautiful cellist next door, Madeline. It quickly learns to talk and initially tries to help nerdy Miles, Cyrano de Bergerac style, to woo Madeline by composing a Boy George love song.
Always a great way to a lady's heart.
Always. But the computer becomes jealous, and the strangest love triangle emerges as they vie for Madeline's attention while trying to destroy each other, all set to the unforgettable soundtrack of bangers from Giorgio Moroder and the Human League's Phil Oakey. You heard a snippet of that, as much as I think copyright matching would allow.
Yeah.
ELO's Jeff Lynne, Boy George, and Heaven 17. So, yeah, quite the lineup on the soundtrack.
Wow. Yeah. The sound, I feel bad because like my reaction to the music in this movie wasn't wholly positive. And I kind of do feel like a lot of people really like the soundtrack. And even Michael, when I showed him the clip of me watching this movie, he was like, "Oh, they put the Electric Dream song in this movie." I'm like, I'm pretty sure that that song is part of this movie. Like it came from this movie. And so he already knew the song, but I have never heard of the song. I've never heard of the movie before until now. And none of the songs in the movie were even remotely familiar to me.
No, it doesn't surprise me. So the way this came about, it was the first feature film of director Steve Barron, who'd become famous. He's a British director, and he became famous in the relatively new art of music videos in the early 80s, many of which had become hits on the recently launched MTV in 1981.
Wow.
So iconic productions like Michael Jackson's Billie Jean video where all the pavement slabs are lighting up, and my personal favorite, a-ha's Take on Me, which is
classic. Beautiful.
Iconic. Steve's mother, Zelda, was a script supervisor who met Rusty Lemarand. I just want to say Lemonade.
I do too. I bet he gets that all the time.
I'm sure he does. Anyway, he wrote the script for Electric Dreams, and he was working as a producer on Barbra Streisand's Yentl.
Almost the same movie, really.
Almost. Papa, can you hear me? Yeah. And he asked Zelda if her son, the famous music video director, might be interested in directing his script, which he conceived as a modern style of musical in which the musical numbers were essentially music videos. So think Xanadu.
Yeah, I did think Xanadu. I felt like it was mostly music. I feel like it was like what you would get if you took a music video and kind of just made it 90 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So Barron agreed, and it became his feature debut. Interestingly, his mum also got her first feature film break in 1986 the World War II drama Secret Places starring Jenny Agutter. So this mother-son feature debut duo got them in the Guinness Book of Records.
Oh,
Oddly enough.
wow.
Just
Oh, cool.
fun bit of trivia. But essentially the movie was a $7 million British production bankrolled by Richard Branson's short-lived Virgin Films company.
Oh.
Richard Branson being a friend of Steve Barron's cousin. And the tie-in with Virgin Records gave them opportunities to fill the soundtrack with the songs from the high-profile artists that we mentioned. The soundtrack release, though,
Wow.
which was supposed to sort of generate advance hype for the movie in exactly the same model as Flashdance the year before, the soundtrack was blocked in the US because of a feud between Walter Yetnikoff, the head of CBS Records, and Richard Branson over who was representing Culture Club in the US.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it wasn't released for weeks after weeks after weeks. And finally, Rusty Lemonade resolved this. He found out that this was what the problem was. And he called Walter, who he'd worked with on Yentl, because, of course, CBS was Barb's label at the time. But the songs were released far too late to generate buzz for the movie's initial release. It was released on the 20th of July, 1984, where it charted 14th behind hits like Ghostbusters, Gremlins, The Karate Kid, The Never-Ending Story, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Star Trek 3. Let's face it, 1984 ruled.
It really was great. I mean, there's a lot of really good movies. So, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't feel too bad being 14th to those movies. A lot of them anyway, because it's a strong lineup. Yeah.
Nice to see The Last Starfighter in there as well.
Oh.
Yet another film we've done a live stream on with the stars.
Yeah.
All these connections.
It's just, threads.
So it did not do well. Rusty convinced MGM studio executive Frank Yablans to pull the film so that they could wait for the songs to become hits and then re-release it again later in the fall. But Frank was fired before they could do the second part of their plan. So basically it was yanked out of theatres after a couple of weeks and then just vanished.
Oh, dear.
Having garnered only 2.2 million in the box office. It later found a following on HBO for some people who picked up on it. It did do better in the UK. So my brother and I were massive fans of this movie. We loved the soundtrack. We loved the story. We loved the 8-bit computing. We were throwing champagne on our BBC micro and hoping that something would happen. You know, we were deeply into this movie. And when this fledgling company called Amazon sprang up that offered the opportunity to import DVDs from the US of A, they had a listing with no cover art of Electric Dreams, and we emailed them back in the days when you could email Amazon and say, is this the 1984 film with Virginia Madsen in it? And they wrote back and said, don't know.
We've never heard of it here.
Yeah,
we just have a stack of them in the back room somewhere.
There's a warehouse in another state. We don't know. We can't go and look. Just order it and see what happens. So we did. We received a softcore porn movie.
Oh my God. Nice.
Which we did not enjoy.
So the music wasn't as good in that one?
No.
Okay.
All the acting, no. It's terrible.
No.
I mean, it did involve a romance between a man, a woman, and a machine, because they were up against a pinball at pinball machine
dear.
at one point. But
Well, it's good that you quality checked the whole movie before, just checking
you
it.
do.
You have to. I mean, you pay good money.
We thought ELO would kick in at some point. Didn't happen.
Sure.
But,
that makes sense.
Yeah. But there you go. So that's my fun story about trying to acquire a copy of Electric Dreams. It was very difficult to come by for a very, very long time. It's finally been released on Blu-ray in the UK, which is nice, with interviews with everybody, including Lenny Van Dolen, who's no longer with us. We lost him a couple of years ago, I think, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Some other little fun bits of trivia. We were talking about The Last Starfighter. There is one shot in Electric Dreams that was animated by Digital Productions, who did all the special effects for The Last Starfighter. And it's the scene where a 3D Pac-Man is chasing Miles through his apartment.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a little
Very
fun bit of
believable.
trivia for you. Very believable.
It
Yeah.
was almost like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy with the giant Pac-Man.
Yeah. It's obviously been stolen.
Of course. They were definitely inspired by this movie.
Definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that this movie got a really, really... I think you watched this, your heart melted, and at the end of it, you just thought, this is a great soundtrack, this is a lovely story, this is beautiful. Thumbs up. That's my guess
Okay.
for your reaction.
Okay. Well, let's see what my real reaction was. So I had actually watched this one last. So this was the last film I watched for some reason. So here we go. Right. Time for the last movie, Electric Dreams.
5, 6 calories equals you're still fat.
Computer montage. I mean, that is how Alexa works.
It's for you.
Yeah.
Hope it feels all right.
Ew.
My mother. She used to play a lot of music around the house. Bach, Beethoven, Bing Crosby.
Anything that starts with a B,
I danced
really.
alone. I wanted to be a great ballerina. My mother.
Also a
said I
B
was
word.
too short.
It's like whoever wrote the script could only have like the B
So what
encyclopedia.
about anybody
It's not
home?
like it's porn. What is wrong with you?
Oh, were you in the shower?
No. Why?
Well, I heard singing.
The 80s when you couldn't be seen to have a computer or chicks wouldn't be into you. Boy, that changed, huh?
Your music. Madeline mentioned it. She has.
It's brilliant.
She loves Casio
But I'd really like to
compositions.
hear it.
I'm rooting for the computer, and that's saying a lot.
Don't touch.
Even the computer doesn't want him touching it.
Alcatraz. What are we doing going to a prison?
Ex-prison. It's now a recreational institution.
I gotta say, this is kind of messed up. This guy looks like he could definitely be a serial killer.
This is where the inmates went when they were being punished.
Where the inmates went? The whole place is where they go when they're being punished. What are you talking about? Hi, would you like to continue the world's strangest date?
9. 4 brothers. No shortstop.
Well, one of us has to be good at stuff.
Darling, I love you to bits, and I want to see your tits.
Montage. So androids do dream of electric sheep.
Start dinner.
I'm eating out
I
tonight.
read a really interesting
Is
article.
that aluminum foil in the microwave?
Whatever came out of it, you put into it. Every sound, every scratch, every note, every feeling.
Miles,
And
you
that's
can't.
not lost.
Kick him in the
It's
nuts.
inside of you. Here, you don't know what you're talking about, so you should just stop talking.
Yes, sir.
Oh my god, he has a computer. He's a nerd.
That you're not just someone living beneath me. You're beside me.
You're stalking me all the time.
Even when you weren't there, it was like you were.
Would you like to own a free encyclopedia?
Is it the B encyclopedia? 'Cause I've already got that covered. What am I looking at right now? It's like the director just wanted to have an excuse to film these particular people. That one was rough. There were a lot of montages. There were a lot of really, really bad songs. The hero protagonist character was extremely unlikable. It's a much more, like Daryl, it's a lot more of an innocent look at AI, although it has some menace to it. They don't really get rid of the menace at the end of the film. He's still out there. I guess I'm just baffled at the idea of this being a theatrically released film. So I'm going to surprise you after hearing me say that and say that I actually do give this movie a thumbs up.
Oh wow! Okay.
And
I
the
was
reason,
not expecting that.
the reason being, initially I was like, no, this was awful, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't
Really?
stop thinking about it for days. I kept talking about it to Michael, and I realized that is what I love in a movie. Is like sometimes a really bad movie, but it's a movie that makes you think, that engages you, that like sucks you in, and whether it makes you mad or whether it's just like whatever, I don't know. I love kind of a so bad it's good movie, and I feel like for me this movie definitely fit that. And it was just enjoyable on so many levels. It made me laugh a lot. It kind of made me dance a little bit, even though I don't love that kind of music. It was just great. So I would definitely watch it again several times probably. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Yay! Oh, okay, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Now, watching it again, I think the relationship does have some alarm bells ringing. There's quite a lot of mansplaining.
Yeah.
Like, I thought the scene where he tells her that, you know, she doesn't have to grieve the loss of her cello because the music was in her. As a kid, I thought that was really moving. But now what I notice most about it is that he's basically just going, shh, shh, stop speaking, stop.
Don't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the look on her face does a lot too.
Yeah. So I'm mansplaining to you right now. I'm telling you how you feel. Shush.
Stop being sad. It's inconvenient.
Smile more.
Yes. So I found him to be wholly unlikable, and it was very weird to me. Maybe you can explain to me, but it seems like a character like that, who is kind of geeky, nerdy, whatever, should have been a computer programmer instead of an architect. And he should have known more about computers, which would have gotten his AI computer thing to the precipice of being sentient. And so when the accident happens, whether it's through the champagne or whatever, that just pushed it over the edge. But that's not at all the case, because he is completely inept with technology. He doesn't seem to be particularly good at anything. He kind of bumbles things. He's doing the thing that a lot of times women in rom-coms do, which is tripping and falling down, which makes him relatable, but that's normally not something a male character does. It's just very odd. Why do you think that they made that decision to make him so inept in so many ways?
I don't know about that. I think he's supposed to be endearing and relatable, and you know, sort of achievable as a male figure for guys in the 80s.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I think Lenny Von Dohlen was an incredibly handsome man, and Virginia Madsen has admitted that she was madly in love with him when they made the movie.
You showed those pictures of him, and they were gorgeous. But in this movie, I did not find him even remotely attractive. And his voice sounded like Bane in the new Batman series. Like it was so deep and weird. It's like, what are you doing to your voice, dude? Like, just talk like a person. You're not actually like using a weird voice box. Like there were moments that I ended up cutting out of that clip that he says words and I'm like, what is that voice? It sounds like it's literally a computer doing it.
Wow. Okay. That never occurred to me. No. I was just swept away in the Xanadu-like music video fun of it all, and yeah, the scene where Edgar plays a synthesizer duet with Madeline while she plays the cello, I've always loved. Absolutely love it.
Well, the thing that confused me about that, right, is that I'm pretty sure she's playing. Is it the Waltz of the Flowers? It's Tchaikovsky. She's rehearsing.
Yeah,
a Tchaikovsky
she's playing a real
piece.
classical piece. Yeah.
Yes, and like she keeps saying your music, your composition. I'm like, well, he's not. He's just playing along with an established song that a lot of people already know. Like Tchaikovsky is like pretty well known by like everyone. So even if it was like Twin Peaks guy doing the composing, which it was, and it was the computer, it's not like he's composing it and making it up. That confused me throughout the whole movie, but I was probably overthinking it.
Yeah, no, he just jams with her, but then does he give her the love song, the Boy George love song in the end?
I think
Love is
she
love
ends
is
up
love is love.
hearing it, right? Like she comes in and hears it or something, but
Yeah, a single tear drops on the computer.
yeah, like in the fairy tale, like
Mm.
it's Rapunzel, where Rapunzel's tear like brings back her husband's sight.
Yeah, doesn't do much for Edgar, unfortunately.
Well, he
He's
lives.
explode.
He
does
survives.
live. Yeah, he's the first thing to make himself immortal on the internet, which is interesting because it didn't exist, but he still manages it, which is amazing. Through the
Yeah,
magic
I kept
of
wondering
filmmaking.
how he was doing stuff like putting the dinner from the fridge into the microwave. Like that's the
Big
part of
track.
robots in the 80s that like once you get one, you're like, well, I still have to like do everything. Like it just basically is like Roombaing over there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he had a big track. That's my guess, but who knows? So you did amazingly well predicting that one.
I'm
Out of
sure.
a total of 9 questions, you got 4 of them right, which is 44%. So as a running percentage at this point, you are above me. You're at 33 overall, whereas I was at 30 at this point because I didn't get much of Rambo right.
Wow. That's insane. I would never have thought that I would have, done that.
No. Well, there you go. You are
Yeah.
ahead.
Wow. I probably won't keep that lead, but it's nice to be in the lead for right now anyway.
Yeah. So in terms of the representation of AI in this movie, I think this one presents the AI sort of as a child.
Yes.
So it's originally it's keen to impress and help his owner, but then he becomes jealous and frustrated at his imprisonment and unfair treatment, and eventually rebels and does things like cancel Miles's credit cards and
which I thought was
embarrass him.
funny.
Yeah.
Because I didn't
Was
like
pretty
Miles, or Moles as he is called initially by the computer.
Yeah.
I kept calling him Moles the whole time.
So, I mean, there's some nightmarish bits in it. So it sort of predicts the convenience of the connected, computerized world, the Internet of Things suddenly becoming a threat once artificial intelligence starts cancelling all of our stuff and controlling our lives. So it sort of predicts that, which is interesting. And it falls into a trope that I read about in terms of presentations of AI, that it's obsessed with being loved.
Yes.
Which seems to crop up quite a lot in AI fantasies.
It does. Certainly ones that are not depicting AIs like Terminators.
Yeah.
If they are capable of emotion, then I think we project our own desperate need for acceptance and love onto the machine. So this is exactly what we're talking about with like 2001, the original, where it's like discussing AI is sort of also always going to be a discussion of humanity and like what we value, and projecting our own values onto the machine and not really seeing that, not being aware of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that's evolved, and we can talk about that with our third movie and how that compares to more recent treatments of humanoid representations of AI, which get a very different treatment in cinema, I think.
Yeah, I think it's weird that, he gets to almost like, you're right, he's sort of like a child when he gets sentience, and then he very quickly becomes like a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of crazy. Like, but then he kind of stops there a little bit for most of the movie. And then he sort of...
And then
Go ahead.
It's curious at the end, he sort of suddenly becomes very chivalrous and takes himself out of the equation. and lets
Well,
other
he
people
doesn't
get on with
have
their
a
lives.
body. I think he understands he can't actually be what she needs or, any of those things.
Yeah. So he blows himself up and turns himself into a Phil Oakey song. So there you go.
I mean, they
Electric
both,
Dreams.
so far, they both have actually exploded. Now, I know that the humans in 2010 didn't blow up the thing, but he does, so yeah.
Yeah, so
It's
two
a theme.
examples where the AI sacrifice themselves for the humans for the greater good.
Mhm.
So we're imagining quite a positive future for AI.
Yeah.
Despite the humans that are involved in their creation, they end up being nobler than we are, which is interesting.
It is interesting because I wonder what that says about like what was happening in the 80s that made people feel that way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so. I think it's very much a reflection of the culture at the time. And a very naive attitude towards the technology and what it could do to us.
Yes.
Yes. So let's get to our third and final movie, Melinda, if you're ready.
Oh God, I don't remember what I said about this movie at all. I really don't.
This should be fun. So this was another one that I watched a lot as a kid. This is Daryl, D.A.R.Y.L, from 1985, starring Barrett Oliver from The Neverending Story. So let's see. Where is my... There we go. Let's see what you made of this one. Or what you expected to make of this one.
Yes.
Movie is Daryl, the not-so-hit family movie from 1985. What do you think is Daryl's backstory? Where did he come from?
I think it was like some inventor that's like, he really wanted a son, kind of Geppetto style, and so he builds a little boy, and so he's like a robot, AI, android, whatever you want to call it.
What's he like to hang out with?
I think he's like really, really smart. So he's one of those really annoying kids that just, did you know that there are 742 species of beetles in the world or whatever? Like, I think he's very, very smart, and he's like instantly good at everything because he's an AI. And so you're wanting to be around a kid, but like, he's not like a real normal kid.
Grown-ups have to feel like they're making progress with you. You gotta mess up sometimes.
So what sort of activities does he enjoy?
This is mid-80s, so I'm kind of getting some Last Starfighter vibes. Maybe he just enjoys playing video games.
Yeah, so not sports.
Not sports.
Does he show off any remarkable talents or do something amazing?
You asked about sports, so now I'm like, well, clearly he plays sports. He's probably like amazing at baseball or something. I'm gonna say like he's really good at science and math and video games. So if he ever goes to the arcade, he'll have like a whole group of people around him. But it's kind of sad though, because none of them want to actually hang out with him and be his friend. They just want to watch him play the games.
Oh, so he's pretty lonely then.
Yeah.
How does he feel about that? Does Daryl have emotions?
I think so, but they're like child emotions, so they're kind of selfish, much like a kid would be, like very self-centered and tantrumy and kind of wanting what he wants, as opposed to like what's best for everyone around him.
Can you imagine how he must feel?
Yes.
So what do you think his character arc is in the film? What do you think happens to him?
Well, I feel like he's going to have to go on some kind of an adventure. Maybe the inventor, much like Geppetto, tries to keep him just in the house and have a normal life, but somehow he gets out of that and he goes out and he, much like Pinocchio, he's like making bad decisions and, stuff like that. But he's also like, there are all these stakes, like maybe the fate of the world or the fate of his town or something like that is resting on his shoulders. The one image I've seen of this movie is him like wearing some sort of a helmet and or flight suit. So I feel like there's like spaceships involved in this, or at least flying some sort of a plane. So I feel like he's going to be going out trying to save either his family or the whole Earth from aliens. I don't really know. And he's Top Gunning it in a ship, and he's like, Danger Zone is playing or some equivalent. It's sort of like Top Gun meets Episode 1 of Star Wars, where like the end where Anakin is in the ship and it's like not exciting at all because it's a little kid.
Spinning is fun, yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think Daryl will turn out to be a force for good, or will he be evil?
I am going to say he's good because he's a little kid. I personally would love to see him be evil, because that's more interesting to me.
Yeah.
And they have to kill him, so then you're like watching them kill a little kid. That's why I don't think that it would go that way.
So what do you think happens to Daryl at the end?
I feel like it will be like almost like a coming of age story, but for a robot, where he's going to learn the importance of thinking of others and not just himself, and learning empathy.
And shaving, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how old that actor was. He looks very young to me, so I don't imagine him actually getting to puberty in the movie. But that would be fun.
I feel like I described Electric Dream's plot better in that than Daryl.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do great on that. Although I had a couple of winners in there, I gotta say.
There was some zingers. I mean, the baseball came out of nowhere, which
I
is
know.
really amazing.
Yay.
So, if anybody has not seen Daryl,
Like I hadn't.
Really? You hadn't seen this one before at all?
No, I had never seen any of these movies before.
Any of them?
My best friend as a kid was obsessed with Barrett Oliver, and she was obsessed with this movie, and she was always telling me I needed to see it. But in order to see it in 1985, I would have to find it at the movie rental store and used my one rental I got however often on this. And I was like, pass. It doesn't look interesting to me. It looks like some space movie, and I don't...
Yeah, no, I can understand that. So the synopsis actually is: a mysterious boy is discovered by the roadside following a chase between a helicopter and a car, and is placed in the care of an eager first-time foster parent couple, Andy and Joyce, in the whitest suburb in Florida.
Are they in Florida?
Yes.
It looks like Florida.
It does?
Was
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Flight of the Navigator. That was in Florida too, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, there are some things about it that has Florida written all over it. But anyway, go ahead.
So there, Daryl learns the joys of pole position on the Atari 600 XL, playing baseball, and learning swear words from the neighbor kid, Turtle. Daryl doesn't seem to remember who his parents are or where he comes from, which is odd because he seems to have a photographic memory as well as wicked gaming skills and home run hitting sports prowess. In fact, he's so perfect he sends Joyce into a tailspin of self-doubt and depression because his self-sufficiency leaves her with no motherly role to play, and hence her life has no meaning.
She gets so mad at him when he's good at stuff. It is hilarious.
She is so thrilled when he screws up.
Oh my god.
I thought she was going to have an orgasm.
I
was so
know.
happy.
Her face was like...
Yes, he screwed up. Two oddly cold strangers turn up claiming to be his real parents, but they take him back to a lab where Daryl discovers he is a data-analyzing robot youth life form, a lab-grown body with a computer brain, whose memory was wiped by one of his creators in the hope he could escape and have a normal life. The military types who commissioned Daryl are disappointed to learn that he's developed emotions and order the scientists to terminate him and make an adult super soldier instead. Probably Jean-Claude Van Damme, not sure.
Probably.
Probably.
Timing would be right, yeah.
It would be, yeah. The horrified scientists reveal the truth to his Florida family and recruit them in a daring escape that involves Daryl flying an SR-71 spy plane and a daring high-altitude bailout into a lake. So it's all very plausible, Melinda.
I mean, I can see this happening.
Yeah.
For sure.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So... production history, the development of Daryl, it came at a time when there was a whole slew of these kids and science movies. that followed in the wake of E.T. in the 80s. So I'm thinking things like War Games and Cloak and Dagger and Explorers, one of my favourites, Flight of the Navigator, as we mentioned, and Space Camp, and even Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I think, which was 89, is pretty much in this vein. D.A.R.L. was a comparatively low-budget independent film that was picked up by Paramount for distribution in the US and by Columbia in the UK. It's very much a British production again. Shot largely at Paramount. Yeah, apart from a few exteriors in Florida, it was shot largely at Pinewood, in the UK.
Wow, I did not know that.
There you go. So it's one of these ones where we're pretending it's American, but it's not. It's written by Alan Scott, a Scottish screenwriter who worked extensively with Nicholas Roeg on films like Don't Look Now and The Witches, and co-created The Queen's Gambit recently. And David Ambrose, a British writer who provided the uncredited rewrites on Star Trek The Motion Picture and scripted Amityville 3D. There's that 80s 3D we were looking for.
Oh, dear.
And the Kirk Douglas time travel movie, The Final Countdown. And it was the US debut of Australian director Simon Windsor, who went on to direct the children's classic Free Willy.
Oh, wow.
Which... that title plays so differently here.
Well, it kind of played that way here too. Everyone made jokes about it.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough then. And he also is responsible for The Phantom and Quigley Down Under and Lightning Jack.
I love Quigley Down Under.
Really? I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Its plot line was kept so carefully under wraps that the Hollywood Reporter guessed that Daryl was an alien at one point prior to release.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. When it was released, it placed 7th in the chart on the 14th of June 1985, behind the likes of Rambo, First Blood Part 2, The Goonies, Fletch, and A View to a Kill. It dropped to 12th place the following week when Cocoon, another film featuring Barrett Oliver, was released, and it vanished from the chart the week after, having yielded $7.8 million on a $10 million budget in 1985 dollars. So it did not do very well.
Okay.
My guess, Melinda, is that when you emerged from this movie, you had a thumb firmly down. I think this is because I just know how much you love kids.
What are you talking about, Conrad? I was not harsh on that first child in the first movie at all.
No, I'm just imagining 90 minutes with cute kids falling in love with each other and hugging awkwardly at the end. It just would have sent you into a spiral of depression, and you would have emerged with your thumb firmly down.
Okay.
So, yes, can't wait to see your reaction to this movie.
So are you ready for that now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, here is my reaction in real time to D.A.R.Y.L. Okay, here we go. Film number 2, D.A.R.Y.L. Or is it D.A.R.Y.L? I guess I'm going to find out. Am I supposed to believe that he's in the backseat of that? I guess so. Come on, movie. Let's see an explosion. It's a very weird retelling of the Superman origin story. Okay. I'm loving the small town campness of it, but I'm hating the whistling. So hopefully that dies down soon.
Hey, Daryl. Catch. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so it's relatable. This is good.
Oh, Jesus.
Hi, Turtle. How's the vacation?
It was okay.
I foresee a broken window.
Yay!
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Turtle, don't talk to Andy like that. Kiss my ass.
Believe it.
Look at her face light up. She's
Daryl,
so
come back
happy he's
here.
being an asshole.
Good. There goes the game.
You can make a deal with them.
If she had just married the bad boy, she wouldn't have this fixation.
Putting him out
Are
there
those
just to see what
giant
was
cheeses? No. They're
when
peanut
Dr.
butter
Mulligan
crackers.
kidnapped him. That was the best thing he could have done.
I love whiskey. Butter crackers.
Wrong. I think he's learned a lot more than I ever thought possible.
Okay, now as a backup to the computer.
Why don't you come and sit down, Melinda? Your mom fix you something to drink. Juice or something?
Whiskey and crackers?
Why not?
Did they RoboCop a kid, or did they build this kid out of synthetic materials? That's what I'm really looking forward to finding out. I'm not crying. Really. Thanks, Florida man. You're literally holding a gun. Holy crap! Wow, that was really easy. Jesus. They're really in a hurry to leave this town. She's secretly mad at him because he survived. It's just too perfect. So wow, I really did like this movie. It was wholesome 80s kid movie fun for the most part. Like, a little predictable by modern standards, but I think if I had seen this movie back in the day, this would have been one of my favorite movies as a kid. Good. It's a nice change. Like, it's definitely a different view of AI though, right? Like, it's much more of like what you see now, where it's AI is your friend. You need to treat them like they're, autonomous beings and all that kind of stuff. And it's sort of the opposite of the Terminator idea, right? So, but overall, a very cute movie that I enjoyed. So it was a nice change of pace.
Wow.
I like to subvert expectations.
Yeah, no, I'm genuinely surprised that you enjoyed it. I've always found it a very heartfelt and warm film, and
yeah,
I do tear up when, because you think he's died at the end of the movie. He's drowned in the
I
lake.
knew there's no way they were going to kill him. Like, there's just no way. So I was like, I mean, he's a robot. Like, I'm still really unclear on the whole anatomy of him and stuff like that, but we can talk about that.
But it's a thumbs up from you. So
it is a thumbs up. Yeah.
So 2 thumbs up and just a thumbs down on the pressure cooker deep space movie.
Yeah, which I almost gave it a thumbs up too, but yeah. So it's funny that I mirrored your thumbs down and then 2 thumbs up in that order when we did the Stallone films. So
yeah, exactly. And I think both of us misjudged each other on the last movie as well.
Mm-hmm. Big time, yeah.
Big time. So you talked about the fact that AI is represented very differently in this film. I think from my perspective, this fits very much into the family under threat cycle of films in the 80s where government officials, scientists, or the military are trying to separate an otherwise perfect, if slightly quirky, white suburban family from their sci-fi oddity that's just wandered into their home, whether it's
like E.T.,
Bigfoot or an alien or robot, whatever it is. So it's simultaneously quite conservative and reactionary, whilst also sort of libertarian and embracing and celebrating difference and so on, as long as they assimilate into the white suburban family, of course.
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cozy, isn't it?
It is.
As a view of AI.
It's a very similar to both of the other movies in a way. The AI in this movie has not only like emotions, but beneficence. What's the word I'm looking for? Like benevolence, or it's definitely like looking to be kind and compassionate and empathetic to humans, which is like a step above just having emotions, because you can have emotions like a 7-year-old, which in general tends to be very self-focused because that's sort of your growth stage at that age. It takes a while for a human being to like usually get to a point where they can really have true empathy and understanding of other people's suffering. And these AIs and all of these kind of seem to have that and do the right thing from like what we would ideally want to see a human being do.
Yeah, exactly. And because he's embodied in the body of Barrett Oliver, who's like the cutest moppet that ever appeared on film, although he only did it for like 2 years and then vanished and then turned into this strange long-haired guy that made a book on Woodbury type or something and disappeared, which hits his life, whatever. But yeah, he's very cute in this movie anyway, Barrett Oliver. So I think then the theme shifts quite firmly into Daryl's rights as a sentient being. So it's sort of like the Data on trial episode of Star Trek TNG.
Sure.
And it's all about the Alan Turing test. I think the female doctor, interestingly, it's all the male scientists that suddenly recognize Daryl's right to life
and
rescue
that.
him, whereas the woman is desperate to kill him, just really keen to just kill him.
Yeah, that was a weird choice. I was noticing that so much in the moment, going, are they saying something with this? What is this all about? But yeah.
It's kind of subverting what you expect.
It's like the Scully syndrome, where they're trying to make the woman the cold, calculating science person and the guy like the maverick, whatever.
A believer, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but even she, thankfully, although they do a bit of a fake out with you in the movie, she comes round to believing that he's alive. I think she says, when you cannot tell the difference anymore, they're human. Which, is exactly the Alan Turing test. So it's very much more focused on AI's right to life, which I feel is not really the center point of the discussion now.
You mean in our modern society?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, not yet. I don't know. I mean, none of us can really predict what's going to happen. I think even the science people who create the stuff don't really know what's going to happen. But with it's sort of a more viscerally terrifying setup now than we were predicting in the 80s based on these films. These films were sort of, in this, I don't know why during the Cold War and the nuclear crisis why we would sort of depict AI as this very benevolent, compassionate thing. But, because at the same time this movie came out, or maybe the other movie, you've got Terminator. It's the same time frame. It's 19. These are all 84. Is that right?
Yeah, I think one of them is 85. Yeah.
Okay, so right there in that sweet spot, though. So it's like, you've got Terminator there, and that's definitely having like a strong opinion about where this is going to take us if we keep going down this road, and it's just very different. So I feel like. I almost feel like people aren't so much thinking about what is really going to happen as we've got this new thing. How can we put it in a movie and tell a new type of story, or tell an old story in a new way? As opposed to this is what they really think is going to happen. I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's some of that. I think in war games, things like war games, they sort of presented something, they were really concerned about, as we said in our previous episode, the threat of complete nuclear annihilation, and if we hand over the keys to an AI, what's going to happen? James Cameron film predicts the machines become sentient and immediately think, well, humans are the problem, let's just wipe them out. Whereas the movies that we've watched as part of this, they're all much more focused on, well, they turn out to be benevolent and huggable and adoptable in one case. And I think, you sort of got into that, with the sequel to The Terminator, we started talking about, the more the AI becomes human, the more inhuman we seem in comparison to them, and perhaps they're better than us. But I'm not seeing that these days. So I'm thinking of things like Ex Machina and recently Megan, where interestingly female embodiments of AI are both depicted as Machiavellian and entirely focused on their own self-preservation and frankly quite evil. So I think the tone has shifted. And then of course the recent Mission Impossible movie, The Big Bad, is a faceless AI that's taking over the world. So it's I think our fear is sort of switching back to where we were in 1984 with the Terminator and war games more than it is looking to the future with cuddly Daryl.
Yeah, I think those are good examples. I saw a preview when we went most recently to the movies, and I cannot remember the movie, so I apologize, but it's some kind of AI themed movie where, you know, it's sort of like you initially kind of think that the machine, like automaton thing, is evil, but then it's like exploring the whole, do they have rights, and then people like being able to. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, The Creator. Yeah,
Yeah,
it does look
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it's
So
the
that-
guy who directed Rogue One.
Okay, yes. So that kind of felt like, and I don't know, I obviously haven't seen the movie yet, but it does feel like that might be going into the direction of, you know, we should be kinder to AI. I do think there's something to be said. Let's go back to quickly to 2010, the movie, where, you know, the Dr. Chandra is like, hey, I don't want to lie to him. I don't want to lie to Hal. And part of the reason he doesn't want to lie is because he knows Hal will be able to tell. But the other reason is because he just doesn't feel good about doing it, and he wants to treat him with respect. And I kind of feel like that might not be the worst approach. Like, we don't have to like take an offensive stance toward these types of things, but at the same time, like, you have to, like with any relationship, you have to establish really good boundaries. And I don't know that we're doing that, because some people are just really excited that they can do these things, and so they just are. And a lot of other people are freaking terrified, and they're like, whoa, let's not just go all in on this AI thing. And no one really knows what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that worries me, I think, most is that we are so keen to make a quick buck out of this that all the safeguards are off. And even if in some countries we might put some safeguards in place and think about what we're doing, there are other places that really won't care.
Yeah.
So.
It's sort of like the whole alien thing, where in Night of the Comet and also in Mars Attacks, there were like all these people who were standing out there going, the aliens are here, we love you, and blah, blah, blah. And then the aliens just like, wipe them out. They're the first ones to die. You just got to be a little cautious, I think, with anything.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I think it's a very different treatment of AI in the 80s to now. I think it was very different. It's quite interesting to look back. This is quite naive. We certainly didn't envision some of the effects that it would have on our own livelihoods and our own development. There's nothing about the interaction with humans beyond just whether or not we get to exist anymore. And that's probably the space that's the most interesting, is how it affects us.
Right.
Yeah.
It's certainly the most interesting to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the most interesting thing to me is how we scored. So out of a total of 9 questions on that one, you got 4 right.
Okay. Again, okay.
Which is 44%. So overall, drum roll, please, you landed at 37% versus my 33.
Nuh-uh.
So at the end of it, you actually scored better than I did.
Still, I would like to point out both really bad scores.
yeah. We're not getting a passing grade.
Like,
here,
we are definitely repeating this class.
I think we are. But anyway, I used AI to generate appropriate versions of our faces for our reactions to this. So there you go. You are now. You're happier, and I'm apparently sad.
We're
according
both
to
very off-put. You look more like a deranged chipmunk.
yeah, I don't know what's happened to my face.
I
I seem
mean,
to be trying to eat it. I don't know
I
what's going on.
feel like one of my teeth is out of alignment now, and I
Yeah,
just
you've
kind of
gone
look
British.
a little doofy.
Yeah, you're full British now. I don't know what happened there.
It's terrifying.
But yeah, there we go. I hope everybody enjoyed. Melinda reacts to 80s visions of AI.
Yes, for sure. I know I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to sort of create these little videos. I will say to any of you who don't know what this is like, to watch yourself for 2 hours straight, like you film yourself and then have to edit it, like you have to watch yourself watching a movie on screen, is very humbling.
Yeah.
And does not make you feel good about yourself. And it makes you extremely self-aware of all kinds of little quirks and facial tics and movements that you have that you've never been aware of before. And so you are kind of terrified to talk to anyone for a while. So it may be a good exercise to sort of make you, I'm suddenly very aware. Everyone always tells me I'm very overly expressive. And I think I see what people are talking about, but I mean, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm just saying it was kind of upsetting.
No, please don't change, because it was massively entertaining watching your facial expressions as these 80s gems unfolded.
Yes, for sure. So I think it's time now that are we ready? We have a few super chats that came in. Let's thanks everyone for hanging out for a while on these. So Brandon says, asked ChatGPT a simple question and it was wrong. How many grooves on a standard 33 RPM long playing vinyl record? Okay. Wow. I mean, I feel like you would get all sorts of wrong. Like there's some things that have lots of rumors around them that are frequently repeated. And I feel like if you ask ChatGPT about those, you might get some of those rumors as reality as well, which is the danger, I think.
Yeah, it is. I know that we've been looking at it at work as, potentially a replacement for search engines, but then you've got the problem that the information that it's bringing back is wrong. And how do you make sure that if you as an organization want to make sure you're represented correctly, where are you feeding the information in so that you get the right result? I don't know. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge. Master Son says, Ellen is sitting here with me watching you going, WTF, I don't understand what is going on. Well, Master Son, you should have explained the premise to her. So if she's coming in midstream, she's probably definitely going to be confused. So, I mean, hopefully with a little explanation, it becomes clear. And we haven't just completely mystified the audience. And then KBA says, AI is good because computers are smarter than humans and therefore obviously more enlightened and peaceful, just like the aliens in V. Which worked out great for everyone in that show universe.
Especially rodents, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, thank you all so much for those kind super chats. And so, Conrad, I think that we're done with the show, right? Like we're approaching the end. And I don't have the show notes in front of me. So for the first time ever, I am just sort of at your mercy.
Okay. Well, that indeed wraps up this episode of Dreamland. You can find our show notes with all the links to all of our sources at retroblasting.com/Dreamland. We'll be back in August with our next show. And Melinda, you, for a change, can reveal the title for next time. What is it? What is the word we should be thinking about?
Yes. For next month, the watchword will be cause.
Interesting.
Yes. So we'll be posting that out there and you guys can guess what you think that's all going to be about next month. I think we're looking at the last Saturday of August for that show. So same bat time, same bat channel.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Until then, you can follow, the notes say me and Conrad. You can follow Melinda and I on Retroblasting and Movie Oubliette, respectively, on all social media outlets, even the one that isn't called Twitter anymore. I don't know what's going on with that thing. And you can email us at the Dreamland Podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.